Hey guys, this Wok Wednesday series is all about Chinese Unchopped, my first book, which covers the core techniques of Chinese cooking. So anything from steaming, stir frying, deep frying, braising, roasting, poaching, and double cooking. That's piecing together 2 or more of those core techniques. Let's get woking, I can't wait. And we are definitely on the wok this week with a flash fried venison with ginger and spring onion, except I've swapped out the venison with beef. So it's flash fried beef with ginger and spring onion and broccoli. So this dish I actually made up with venison because my wife doesn't eat beef. And it works really well with that, but it's not the season for venison right now. So we've got some ribeye steak here and some tender stem broccoli. And what really makes it is the sauce. It's a tamarind-based sauce, stir-fry sauce. So it's really absolutely delicious. I'm going to go with the broccoli first. My ginger, garlic, and spring onion is already prepared. So my tender stem, it's all quick stir-frying this. I'm just going to go for nice sort of thin chunks. Can you get a thin chunk? I guess so. Thin chunks of broccoli. Don't want to overload the wok with too many ingredients because I want this to be a really high heat all the way through. Just going to start to set up my wok clock here, and I'm going to start with some ginger, and then we've got some spring onion for flavour or flavouring the oil at the beginning, and then we can garnish with a bit of spring onion as well at the end. A little bit of garlic. So my wok clock is starting to look nice and vibrant already. Got my broccoli, my tender stem broccoli, just leaving a gap there for the actual meat. So I'm going to sear the meat first before I add the veg. My ribeye steak has nice little bits of marbling in it, which is why I like a ribeye, and it's great for quick cooking. So I'm going to go for nice dices, or either dices or chunky strips work. I want to keep it at least medium in texture or finish. So you don't want it too small or too thin. And that can go straight into here. I'm going to marinate the meat first, and then we'll set up the sauce to go woking. So I'm going to season up your meat with a couple of tablespoons of Shaoxing rice wine, and that will not only give it a slight sort of sweet savoury flavour, but also if you were to marinate it for an hour or overnight, then it really tenderises the meat as well. Tablespoon of light soy, and then a little drizzle of sesame oil. Got some corn flour here as well. What I'm going to do is going to start to massage this in first, then add a little bit corn flour, and that will just wrap around the meat, which will again also tenderize the meat, but allow it to sort of crisp up and brown very quickly when it hits the hot wok. So when you're marinating your meat, you want to really get all the flavour from the bottom of the bowl into the meat itself, so it's not all sitting at the bottom of the bowl. Just a small amount of corn flour to wrap around the meat. You should just make it slightly creamy in texture. That marinated meat is ready to go straight into really hot oil. And then last but not least, your stir-fry sauce. If you don't know what tamarind is, it's actually a fruit or a pod that kind of looks like a dry, long brown runner bean, and inside it's got the fruit and the seed, or the pulp and the seed. And the pulp is this stuff here, but this is just sort of melted through with hot water, and you get a nice tamarind concentrate. So you're going for roughly 2 tablespoons of tamarind. Got a natural sour flavour. So with that natural sour, you want to balance that out with some sweetness. So I've got a tablespoon of hoisin sauce, which is sweet, but also the texture is very similar to tamarind concentrate. We've got a base of sweet and sour. I'm not actually going to add any sugar to this dish at all, because the next ingredient is also quite sweet, and that's kecap manis. That's sweet soy sauce, that Malaysian style or Indonesian style soy. I'm going to go for a tablespoon of that as well. So with the hoisin and the kecap manis, there's enough sweetness. But I also want to taste that sour flavour from the tamarind. Lastly, I've got some chicken stock. And you don't need a lot of chicken stock for this, because I want it to sort of, the sauce to wrap around all the meat and veg. But that extra liquid will allow the sort of steam to form very, very quickly in the wok and steam the veg through once it hits the wok. So my wok clock of ingredients is ready. And this really is very, very quick, especially because I want to keep the meat nice and tender. You want to make sure your wok is really, really hot. And then you're going to start with a good amount of oil, because I'm going to go ginger, garlic and spring onion quite quickly, followed by my meat. So it's going to be smoking hot, a good amount of oil, enough to sear the meat quite quickly. My ginger and spring onion and garlic, if you're using, and go straight into that. Just fold that through into the oil. And then immediately push that to the back. I don't want it to burn too quickly. A little bit more oil ready for my meat. And you can see this wok is smoking hot before I add the meat. Give it 5 seconds or so before you then lay your meat into the wok. And then bring your ginger and spring onion over the top of that. Sear that for about 30 seconds before you then fold that through and sear the other side. You might need to do that sort of 2 or 3 times, and then you'll see the meat starting to separate out. Once the sauce goes in on a really high heat like this, it's going to bubble up straight away and steam everything through in a matter of seconds. Now the meat's starting to separate out, I'm just going to sort of manoeuvre it so it's just sitting on the sort of outside of the wok a little bit more. I'm not going to add any more oil to this. My tender stem broccoli, you can use normal broccoli or any other sort of hard veg for this type of dish anyway. That's going to go straight into the middle of the dish. Just getting a nice sizzle around that meat before I pour the sauce in, because I want the meat to have a little bit of colour. You see, I'm being relatively patient with this, because from here I want your wok to just load up as much heat as possible before the sauce then lifts all the flavour off the bottom of the wok. Smoking hot all the way around. Pour your sauce round the edge. I'm going to allow that to come up to a vigorous boil before I then go in and scrape off the bottom of the wok. And with that extra little bit of chicken stock in the sauce, it thins it out so it can bubble up nice and quickly, but also cook the broccoli through almost instantaneously. So you're looking at about no more than 2 minutes of cooking with the sauce in. Once that sauce starts to wrap around, it is a wet stir fry, so you do want to keep some sauce for the actual finish of the dish. But you don't want to sort of soften the broccoli too much. Keep that crunch in the broccoli, then you can serve it up. Seriously quick wok cooking. Proper Wok Wednesday. Let's get a bit of broccoli and beef together. Super tender. And the tamarind isn't sour, it's just got that nice sort of tart finish and good balance with the savoury as well. Asian food and Chinese food especially is all about balancing flavour, texture and colour. And if you want to learn how to do more of that, guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, tell all your friends, and like.